Welcome to my product review for the Flow Hive 2. I spent my day building this today, so I'm just going to give you a nice big all-around shot. Put those little shelves on the back. Overall, a very nice looking hive. As you can see, I'm going to go through some of the ins and outs very quickly with you as well. One of the first improvements I would say is definitely these screws that they're using with the little square in the middle rather than the normal Phillips head. They're very good. I also love the way these roof panels come put together rather than having to put them together. I found that a lot more successful. They also have a little spacer that you can figure out the exact overlap for these, which I thought was very clever. I also really enjoy this little the little landing space there for the bees. I think it looks fantastic. I think this looks really neat as well. One criticism, if I had one, would be the fact that there isn't an entrance reducer or at least something you can block off the hive if you need to move them or anything. I think that would have been really good to have that integrated, but look, it's not too difficult to get on there, and I'm sure it wouldn't quite be as pretty, which I'm guessing is probably the reason they haven't done it. But everything else is looking fairly nice. As we come around here, actually I'm not going to do this one because this one's these ones have proven quite difficult here. This little guy here is being a laser cut, it's very hard to get in and out. As I'll show in a minute, I've actually broken this window here, so I'll give you some tips on how to put that in. I'm going to have to get a new one. I find this one quite difficult to get back in, but that's proven me wrong. Down here is the little, you can see it's not properly balanced yet, but that's the little balancer. Love these little guys, little brass buttons to grab hold of. I think they are fantastic, those little handles. These things I'm not as impressed by. They've really got nice and shiny brass, but you'll see here they really don't kind of stop anything from coming in and out. There's a bit of a gap there. I'm trying to show that to you. So there's, like, you can put your finger under there, so it's actually not really stopping much. I don't like the way it sort of bends back this way. I would have liked to see maybe a little rubber tip on the end here that sort of gave it some pressure again. But look, they look really nice. They're very nice looking. Just not as functional, I think, as the original wooden ones. Coming around the back here, there's a few new things here. Obviously, we have our level, built-in level there as well. Got more of these. So this is a good example. This moves quite a lot, which I'm not a massive fan of. Love these new handles. I think they're really handy, pardon the pun. And I love these shelves. So the trick with these shelves, I was wondering how they worked, but basically you screw these little fellas on here, you unscrew one of these screws just about 1.5 turns, and that will slot in there. My advice is to really fiddle with it to get it nice and tight, otherwise you get them quite loose, and they don't work very well. Those two are both on fairly well. This one could probably do with a bit more of a tighten. So when you pull this out, zoom out a little bit, that slots in there nicely, and that becomes your harvesting shelf. You can see in here where I've broken that window over there. I do like the fact that they've got 6 screws that are securing that together. I'll show you again in there in a minute. The black queen exclude is quite cool. Now putting this back for a second, and there you go. So definitely need to make that nice and tight. Love this little guy here. So there's the with airflow or without airflow, and this is your little pest catcher basically. So everything falls through. If I pull this out, you get a nice view. The baseboard there, it's nice and metal, so very nice for the pests to fall down into something that will catch them in here and hopefully help them to cease to exist. So that's a really good feature. Just going to put that back in there. I'll put this guy back as well. So you can see that one's definitely a little bit more loose than this one. So I need to tighten that one up. Now onto the other feature that I think is a really good idea, but not too happy with the execution, I think would be the best way to describe it. These little things, I mean, obviously with the roof as it is, in a windy area it can blow off. If you screw these in and use these quite a bit, they'll actually do a bit of damage to the hive itself, which I think they could have fairly easily avoided. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this, I'm going to take the roof off and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're back on. So you can see you twist this little guy here and it'll come out of here. And it's quite a point. I mean, it's not a screw by any means, but it's a pointed little area, and it will potentially do a little bit of damage here. I haven't screwed them in yet. I would like to see possibly a flatter tip on that, or a little rubber tip, possibly something that's slotted in from either side that could be pushed. Great idea. I'm just not overly convinced with the execution on it. Once again, love this. Mentioned that in the unboxing last night, so that's quite cool. And then in here, you've just got your queen excluder, and you can see the mesh bottom as well. Now, one other thing I did really like is I love these little spaces. They're in all the corners, and they are perspex, and they just help you with the flow frame. So that's only in the super. But again, you can see here, these are broken off now. They were these two particularly, actually when I was putting them in, I actually screwed the screws just one screw too far, and it went actually through it. And then when I was trying to get this quite tight window back in, it popped them on the other side, and that's when they're broken. So just be aware of that. I think these screw heads aren't quite big enough myself. I think you know, if you can get a slightly larger screw head, I think you'd be a bit better with those ones. That'd be my advice anyway. If they could change something on those, that'd be slightly larger screw heads. But yeah, look, this one's fine. So, once again, the larger window is really nice, and they've got six screws instead of 4 this time. So look, overall, lovely looking hive, and if you're in the market to get one, I would absolutely advise you to do so. I give it a 9 out of 10, and I'm sure that the Flow Hive 3 will probably come out with some other whiz bang features. But other than that, enjoy guys, and lovely chatting to you always. All the best.